Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all having a great day and that you are all doing well. To start things off, probably some of the most interesting news that we've had in a long time, and we've been having very good news non-stop over the course of 3 weeks. Microsoft is launching the first decentralized infrastructure implementation by a major tech company that is going to be built directly on the Bitcoin blockchain. The open source project called Ion deals with the underlying mechanics of how networks talk to each other. For example, if you log onto Airbnb using Facebook, a protocol deals with the software that sends the personal information from your social profile to that external service provider. In this case, Ion handles the decentralized identifiers, which control the ability to prove you own the keys to this data. Christopher Allen, a crypto veteran and the co-founder of the World Wide Web Consortium, or the W3C, working group for decentralized identity DID solutions, told CoinDesk that Microsoft's move could impact the entire tech industry. He said a lot of enterprise infrastructure is using Microsoft products, so if they integrate this into any of their infrastructure products, they'll have access to the decentralized identity solutions. Indeed, York Rose, a program manager on Microsoft's blockchain engineering team, told CoinDesk that Microsoft's team has been working for a year on a key signing and validation software that relies on public networks like Bitcoin or Ethereum, yet can handle far greater throughput through the underlying blockchain itself. Underscoring the fact that Microsoft was a founding member of the Decentralized Identity Foundation, Rhodes said there are many systems that we have at Microsoft that give you permission in an enterprise context. A product called Active Directory that we think needs to be able to recognize these DIDs as well. He added such infrastructure products are services related to Azure are among Microsoft's most popular offerings. This tiny piece in a gigantic machine then could have far-reaching impacts. Where's the other really important part? Yeah, meanwhile, an anonymous source with knowledge of Microsoft's project told CoinDesk that Ion will shift from using Bitcoin's testnet to the Bitcoin mainnet later this year. As such, any tech-savvy observer could run a node and contribute to this project. I saw this just before I was getting ready to go to bed, and it kind of blew my mind that this wasn't kind of like the main news of the day. I mean, to be fair, like I said, we've had an enormous amount of very good news over the course of the last 3 weeks. It's been almost nonstop. And the fact that we have proper, real information that Microsoft is going to be building on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, and in my opinion, the fact that Bitcoin hasn't even gone higher is, I think that maybe the market just hasn't figured out this news or hasn't found a way to properly react to it, which should, in my opinion, only be going up. We had Bitcoin's history has been a very interesting one. We have had many times during the past where we wanted mega corporations and institutions to even say the word Bitcoin, or to even say that they understood what Bitcoin was, or to even say that they understood what a blockchain was, and that they were maybe potentially sometime in the future thinking of even using a blockchain, whether it be a Bitcoin blockchain, an Ether blockchain, or their own. And the fact that we now have huge amounts of, and I mean, it's not even small companies anymore. If you paid attention to the last couple of videos where the thing from the Gemini twins and the thing from, I can't remember the other one, it's called Flexa, all the new large companies who are going to be accepting Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, especially Starbucks finally announcing, yeah, we're going to do it. And then you have information that Microsoft is going to be building on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. All of this tells me in no uncertain terms that Bitcoin is not going anywhere. The fact that whenever we have really significant news, or rather anything really big about a company using Bitcoin or integrating Bitcoin or going to be building on top of Bitcoin, or even the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ talking about getting into the Bitcoin space, it's never been, yeah, like we're kind of looking into it, maybe we'll, maybe in a couple of months we'll get back to you. It's like, no, we've been looking at this for years. We've been trying to do this for years, and now we're finally going to execute all of this as well, usually over the course of this year. It's very fascinating that I think it's become very fascinating to me, the information that people pay attention to, the things that people kind of talk about. Not to be mean at all, and I mean this in the nicest way, I've noticed as prices have gone back up that a lot of the hype cryptocurrency channels have kind of resurfaced. Those are the channels that tell you to buy the coins that you should not be buying, or to kind of get you very excited. Don't forget that all these channels disappeared as the bear market was happening because they didn't really understand exactly where the cryptocurrency space was going, and they were just trying to get you to pump up coins that they could cash out of. This is going to be really big. This is going to be something. This is no longer I want to say an experiment. This isn't a lot of wishing and hoping and praying and saying, well, maybe one day Bitcoin will be used. Maybe one day somebody will actually use XRP. Maybe one day people will build on top of Ethereum. We know that all of this is happening on a rapid basis, and even more so. It's interesting that this has all been happening behind the scenes while other people have not been paying attention to the cryptocurrency space. I read a lot of comments, and I feel bad, and I don't, and it's not an I told you so moment. It's more like just please pay attention. I've seen at least 15 comments yesterday. That's not even an over exaggeration of people talking about how they just sold their coins, how they sold their Bitcoin like 2 or 3 weeks ago, how they sold their XRP, how they got rid of all their crypto, and they were surprised when the market started moving back up. You shouldn't be surprised. If you really just look at the basis of the news and who's building on top of these things, you have to also keep in the back of your mind that Microsoft is probably not just building on top of Bitcoin. They probably own a huge amount themselves because they see exactly where the space is going. If this is the information that we get, if we get information that there are corporations and entities and companies who own 1% of Bitcoin, like just one company, you kind of have to understand behind the scenes that all these people are talking to each other because they do all know each other, and not that they're even plotting anything behind the scenes. It's more like, we know we're going to make money from this. Let's make money from this. Let's do it together. And the last thing I want is for anyone listening to the channel to be flushed out of the market, which a lot of people kind of flushed themselves. I mean, not to continue on too far on this entire one thing, but the amount of people I saw yesterday who were talking about that they sold Bitcoin when it was around 4,000 because they didn't think it was going to go back up, and they saw it hit 5,000. They were like, it's a fluke. We're getting a lot of people calling for an $8,500 to a $9,000 Bitcoin in the very near future. And then even keeping in mind all of these entities who are integrating and using Bitcoin and building on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not just going to go to 25,000 and rest there for the rest of its life. It's going to continue going higher. Please stop selling your coins. I can't tell you what to do, but it's becoming, like if you have a child and you're like, don't put your hand in the fire, and then they put their hand in the fire, and you're like, okay, now you learn your lesson, right? And they go, yeah, and then they like slowly walk back over to the fire, and you're like, stop doing that. And then 2 years later, you tell them again, like, stop putting your hand in the fire, and then they put their entire arm on the fire. It's understand where this is all going. This news alone should have caused Bitcoin to shoot up by 20%. The fact that we know that Microsoft and and even if it was just Microsoft and no one else, anyway. Yeah, Microsoft is launching a decentralized identity tool on top of Bitcoin. A lot of this has to do with the fact that in the future, a lot of people believe that we are going to have digital identities. I don't think anyone is really sure to the extent of what that is going to mean, what basis this is going to have on society, what impact this will have on us as people as we are traveling around the world or wherever we might actually be. This is a very big thing on many platforms, and EOS is one of the other ones that has mentioned before in the past that they are also trying to create a digital identity platform kind of thing of sorts, and it had to do with their idea for the universal basic income. The idea is that if you are an EOS citizen, if you have an EOS digital identity, you would be paid out in EOS monthly based on their universal basic income. Just a general idea. A lot of people are working for. You have to get that in the future. And that is to say in 3 to 5 years, keeping in mind that we're almost 2020. Think about the year like 1995, and then sit in 1995 and think about the year 2020. Like, we are actually in the future. We have self-driving cars. We have all this other stuff. The idea is that eventually we will no longer use paper or passports or other things. It'll simply be completely digital. Who knows, like I said, to the extent that this is going to actually end up happening, but we know that it is going to happen, and I think a lot of platforms are trying to be at the forefront of actually creating these platforms. And here's the actual GitHub for the Ion project. And yeah, please pay attention to everything that's happening and let us move on. Next up, BNP Paribas, Natixis, and Societe Generale have joined Finstra's syndicated leading platform Fusion Lender.com. British financial software firm Finastra has signed 3 global banks on its R3 Corda blockchain-based syndicate loan platform. The firm officially announced on the 14th of May. France-based institutions BNP Paribas, Natixis, and Société Générale have officially joined Finstra's syndicated lending platform Fusion Lender.com, following previous pilots back in 2017. Based on blockchain consortium R3's open source blockchain platform Corda Enterprise, Finstra's Fusion Lender.com reportedly enables banks to instantly share credit agreements, accrual balances, and position data to its lenders. Cécile Bertinif, Chief Operating Officer of Global Banking and Investor Solutions at Société Générale, stated that the Fusion Lender.com initiative will bring more transparency and operational efficiency to the syndicate loan market, which is an illustration of how blockchain can help banks optimize the entire flow of financial operations. Without reading anymore, because they kind of just keep patting themselves on the back. For those who have no idea what R3 Corda is, it's pretty much like a huge consortium, conglomerate, institution, group of over 200 members at the moment who have agreed in some sort of way to use blockchain, to use pretty much blockchain or cryptocurrencies to enable their systems to go a lot quicker, faster, more streamlined, to kind of be interconnected. And they're kind of all joining this thing called R3 Corda. R3 Corda was heavily in the news over the course of 2018, as we had a lot of news that a lot of institutions were actually joining the R3 Corda. This was another thing that kind of perplexed me, that a lot of it's not even that we've only had good news over the course of the last 3 weeks. The last year, and I mean the first 4 or 5 months of 2018 were a little rough, and then after that everything was kind of smooth sailing, except for the prices kind of going. We had an information that companies like Intel, like Amazon, like Microsoft were actually getting into this as well, and this is heavily tied to the actual Ripple project and Ripple team as well. There are many people on the R3 Corda team, whatever you kind of want to call it, who have also announced that they're going to be using Ripple software, such as SBI, ING. Not to say that they're going to be using it explicitly, but whatever the case actually ends up being, there are very heavy names who are actually in this consortium, if you will. And these are just things that I think that a lot of people don't pay attention to. I think there's been a huge, I don't know, it could be a number of things. I think people have their own ideas as to what certain organizations are, and I think when people see UBS or Barclays or BNP or Credit Suisse or Citibank or the Saudi, I mean, it's the list kind of goes on and on. These are also many banks who have also announced that they're going to be using RippleNet. So this all kind of ties together. Not to really spend an enormous amount of time on the R3 system and all of their partnerships, but once again, keep in mind, these are all institutions who have announced that they're going to be using cryptocurrencies, or going to be using blockchain, or going to be using RippleNet, or going to be using some type of interconnected system that also ties directly and indirectly within our cryptocurrency space. We've had news multiple times about IBM using Stellar, or the other banks using RippleNet. Like these corporations are all connected together because they've been looking for someone who, or something, or some company to come forward and say that they are or willing to be regulatory compliant, and therefore, yes, please use our systems. And these systems are being used and being tested behind the scenes. And this is why you shouldn't really lose hope just because your cryptocurrency isn't going up in price. You have to look at the long term of all of this. This isn't something that's going to, when you make money, and a lot of people, and I already dread this moment, when Bitcoin's price goes back up to 20,000, a lot of people are going to cash out of the market because they lack the foresight to see exactly where this is going to go. Don't, if you can hold out. Because this is the new world. This is the new world of finance. This is where everything is going. Don't think that because all of these names have signed up that they're simply in it just to be in it for a year. They're integrating it into their systems. They've been testing this anywhere from a year to 4 years plus, because they know that this is how the world is going to function from now on. Right. Let's move on. Next up, in news that shouldn't have surprised anyone, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SEC, has delayed its decision on the Bitwise Exchange Traded Fund proposal filed with the New York Stock Exchange ARCA. According to the new filing, they said, on the 29th of March 2019, pursuant to section 19 so-and-so, blah, 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 we have delayed once again. This marks yet another delay by the SEC, which has yet to approve any Bitcoin ETFs. Initially submitted in January of 2019, the Bitwise ETF would have become, if approved, the first regulated crypto exchange traded fund by the SEC. The SEC remains open to input from the public and invites more comments after having received 25 comments following the Commission's most recent request in March. The filing notes that unreliable crypto trading volumes fuel an inefficient way or view of the marketplace. So, my views have changed greatly from 2018. 2018 saw us in a very, it was like euphorically disastrous type of mind frame. We saw that the market was going down, but we all held hope. Some of us more than others. And the idea was that the SEC would eventually allow a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, especially a physical one, what have you, depends on the situation. Up until this point, the SEC has not even delayed, they have said no to just every single ETF that has tried to pass through, and it wouldn't have been so much of a problem if we had not had indications or news from around 2013, 2014, that the SEC has denied every single ETF. And their main thing that they keep saying that it's the volatility of the market. They don't understand the market that much. They're constantly looking for public opinion or public approval or public sentiment on the exact situation. In 2018, like I said, they got me really good. There was a situation where I even made a video after the SEC had come forward telling people to tell them their opinion. Do you think we should have a Bitcoin ETF? They knew from the get-go that their decision was going to be no. I think it's wrong, this is my opinion, how the SEC handles all of this. I think it is a very blatant form of manipulation. At some point, it is widely believed, at some point in the future, who knows if it is now, tomorrow, 5 weeks, 5 years from now, the SEC will have to eventually approve a Bitcoin ETF, but them not doing so, I mean, take your guess. It could be a million and one things as to why they have yet to approve one. I'm not surprised at all that they have. I mean, when the New York Stock Exchange kind of also comes forth with a proposal for a Bitcoin exchange traded fund, one must or should assume that not only does the New York Stock Exchange probably have all the documents that they need, they probably have had at least 10 to 50 lawyers looking over the documents before it's actually submitted to the SEC to make sure it's not one person just writing up this document. There are multiple people probably looking over it to make sure that the other ones, that is to say the other ETFs that have not been approved or have been struck down over the course of a 5-year period, that they will not make that same mistake. Nobody wants to file paperwork that takes 3 to 6 months to be reviewed and have it be incorrect in any type of filing or any type of way. I think it's very weird that the SEC keeps delaying decisions and then kind of saying no to it when they know from the get-go that they are going to say no in the first place. I would be shocked if this was ever approved. That is to say, over the course of the next 3 months that I believe that they have in order to be able to say yay or nay once again. I'm pretty sure that I think we have 3 submissions for a Bitcoin ETF that have been submitted to the SEC, and I'm pretty sure they're all going to get struck down. Just kind of, like I said, this is my own personal opinion, but I mean, 5 years is a very long time. It tells me that they don't care, or that if they do care, they're actively probably trying to just manipulate the market. When we did get this news yesterday that the SEC had once again delayed a Bitcoin ETF decision because they probably don't care anything about the market, or probably trying to keep their best interests at heart, the price of Bitcoin actually fell, and I was trying to figure out exactly why it fell. I think it fell by 2 or 3%, that it has since slightly recovered from that moment. It had to do with this, and I think it's very funny and interesting that regardless of how much time passes, there will always be institutions and entities and whatever you kind of want to call them who still rely on the old tricks that they did before. In 2018, this worked out very well. Any single time that we were getting close to the idea of a Bitcoin ETF approval, or Bitcoin futures, or an Ethereum futures, or anything else that had to be approved by the CFTC or the SEC, the market would go up in anticipation of these things actually being approved. But it happened about a good 7 or 8 times over the course of a year. And by the end of the year, I kind of sat there and I said, okay, this was all completely coordinated. They knew from the very beginning that they had no intention of actually allowing anything to go through. There's actually some, I don't even know if I have it in this video on these tabs. There are many other countries around the world, especially even just yesterday, we had the German stock exchange launch I think it was a Litecoin and an XRP exchange traded note. Like, these things are going to happen in other countries, and this is kind of one of the other reasons why I personally feel, and it's very sad, because I feel like the US could be at the complete forefront of everything that's happening in the cryptocurrency space, but they are desperate to make themselves kind of stay behind. And this was, remember about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was it was one of the Winklevoss who came forward, and he was like, yeah, it's great to see that the US is at the forefront of all of this and the adoption of this technology. And it's like, but they're not, though. Like, they're not really trying to actually push themselves forward. Like, if the US had been really adamant, especially since we've had news from many congressmen and many other people in the traditional regulatory financial space who've come forward and they've admitted that they don't know what Bitcoin is. They were surprised that Bitcoin is still a thing. They didn't understand exactly what this was, and they had congressional hearings and all this other stuff before, Senate and what have you, asking experts, so what's a blockchain? So how does Bitcoin work? Is Bitcoin really powerful? Can Bitcoin overtake the US dollar? And it's like, you didn't do any research yourself. You didn't sit in a room. If someone told me that there was something that could possibly usurp my national currency, I would probably at least take a week to like read through some of the documents to try and get a better understanding of exactly what it was. But that may be what it is. Maybe they do have a proper understanding of exactly what Bitcoin is and how big Bitcoin is going to become in the future. And maybe this is why they're trying to constantly postpone this. But it's really interesting that the market continues to move forward. Thank goodness. I'm glad that we've gotten out of this mindset that we need the SEC or the EFTC or the CFTC to kind of tell us what we need in order for the market to kind of get moving. The rest of the world has reacted to cryptocurrencies. They are moving forward with cryptocurrencies. They are integrating cryptocurrencies, and they are integrating blockchain into their systems. We have multiple countries around the world who are talking about launching Bitcoin funds, meaning like based on Bitcoin, them having to actually accumulate Bitcoin to actually issue issue the bonds with them. It just kind of is what it is. I firmly believe in my heart of hearts that not everyone is going to make it. A lot of people, and I wish I could give you my enthusiasm and my understanding of the space. A lot of people are going to be shaken out of the market even as the market goes up. Don't think just because the market is going to go that a lot of people are going to stay around. A lot of people get very afraid. I've had a couple of friends who are already asking me, hello if you're listening, when they should get out of the market. And I don't have an answer for them because I think at this point it is foolish to get out of the market. As far as we are entering a point in time, which I spoke about in 2017 and during 2018, where cryptocurrencies are becoming so big that you can actually use them to purchase things. And when you can actually purchase things within cryptocurrencies, you no longer have to cash out of your cryptocurrencies, especially as we end up getting closer to one magical day, when Bitcoin ends up hitting $100,000 per coin. Stabilization will start to set in, and the price will continuously go up in increments. But we will have a situation where Bitcoin will be so stable that many other companies around the world will also be trying to adopt it as an everyday currency, as something to be able to back up or to use because their other local currencies are not doing very well. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, there's really just a lot to kind of consider, especially as we move forward. I think the big thing, the big change in sentiment for a lot of people will be when they are paid in Bitcoin. I think that may be a good, I want to say 3 to 5 years off. I can only see a couple of companies kind of doing this, like some of the braver ones, and it'll be a mixture of not wanting to give the companies Bitcoin away to their employees because they see the future long-term prospects of where this price is going to go. And also, I think there's still going to be trepidation for a lot of things. There's still trepidations for many of the other ETFs and funds and stuff like that that have nothing to do with cryptocurrencies at all. I think as crypto becomes larger and bigger and starts to take over more of the world, we will still have the Warren Buffett and the Jamie Dimons and other people who will come forward, and the Nouriel Rubinis who are talking about that Bitcoin is trash, Bitcoin is so and so and so. I had something planned. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it, but I definitely considered that there was a point in my life, like a couple of months ago, where I was thinking, I was like, if Bitcoin ends up going to 100,000 relatively soon, I would just want to post like a photo of a Bitcoin on like Nouriel Rubini's Twitter, or like somewhere where Warren Buffett could see it, just so they kind of, get the idea that they're completely wrong. There will always be opposition always, regardless if it's people who keep saying that they're there for our best interest, there will always be opposition to what we're trying to do. The opposition can only hold back for so long before they're kind of toppled over by the wave. And the wave is happening around the rest of the world, and eventually it will have to hit the US. And at that point, I believe it will be too late for them to kind of be the leader, as it were, within the cryptocurrency space. Next up, leading cryptocurrency exchange Binance will be undergoing a system upgrade starting at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. According to the post published on the official exchange website, Binance will be suspending trades, deposits, and withdrawals during the planned maintenance, which will take approximately 6 to 8 hours. In the update, Binance stated that the deposits not finished by the start of the update will be forced to wait until the process is over. They said Binance will suspend deposits, withdrawals, and trading during this period. Deposits that are not completed before the start of the upgrade will be processed after the upgrade is complete. Please allow some time for deposits to be reflected in your account following the system upgrade. Once the upgrade is complete, we will make a further announcement to provide users with a 30-minute window to cancel orders, process deposits, withdrawals, and use all other account-related functions before trading resumes. We apologize for any inconvenience caused, and thank you for your patience. I'm actually very interested to see exactly how Binance deals with this. For those who do not know about it, 6-7 days ago, Binance had a situation where their systems were hacked. And keeping in mind that this is not the first attempt at a hacking, many other cryptocurrency exchanges have multiple hacks every single day, and it is not a surprise that Binance was also targeted by this as well. When you are the king, people will try to attack you. So what the people from Binance have done is they were very transparent from the very beginning to let people know that they were indeed hacked, but they also said that they are going to be completely changing their system. They are going to change a lot of the things that they had before in their platform to make sure, or to at least try to make sure that something like this cannot happen again. And as far as me wondering exactly what they're going to do, but before you had to like solve a puzzle, and then you had to like get something to your phone and all this other stuff. So I assume that they're probably maybe even going to add a third layer and also something else behind the scenes that make sure that they need to verify multiple times that money can go out. It was probably just before, it was probably a human and then a computer who had to make sure that things were going out. And I assume that they are going to have multiple checkpoints now. That's not to say that you won't be able to easily access your money. It's more like when you're trying to take money out, they're going to make sure that it is actually a legitimate thing and that someone's not trying to take out 7,000 of anything at one time. Very interesting. So yeah, if you were wondering why your Binance was not opening, this is probably why. I would give them realistically until even the end of the day. Simply because when they do finish with stuff, they like to make sure that it actually ends up working out properly. And I mean, at least for me, I think I'm more paranoid than other people when it comes to things like that. So I like to, myself, I wait a good 6 to 12 hours after the thing has been back up just to make sure that other people can take their stuff out. Because, yeah, it's just my normal brain paranoia. Next up, technology needs to be a national issue for the United States, with digital currencies and blockchain to be recognized within that goal. This is according to Ripple's director of regulatory regulations, Ryan Zagone, at the Consensus 2019 conference that was yesterday. Zagone stated that technology needs to be a national security issue for the U.S. to ensure that the country is the leader and is not reliant on foreign innovators. This is exactly what I was just saying. He said, there's a broad discussion in Washington around 5G being dominated by foreign firms and the U.S. being reliant on foreign technology and foreign expertise. With blockchain and crypto, I think there's a recognition now that these will be part of our future infrastructure. It's important both for national security and from an economic perspective that the U.S. is a leader in that, end quote. Recently, legislators introduced the Token Taxonomy Act that would exclude cryptocurrencies from being classified as a security, which is another, I'm going to try and remember to get back to this. The act also pursues the introduction of regulatory certainty for businesses and regulators in the United States blockchain industry, as well as clarifying conflicting state initiatives and regulatory rulings that have confused the issue. So before I get into the other part, let me try and jump into this. There's something that was, there have been multiple legislators, congressmen, Senate leaders, people, politicians who are actually very pro cryptocurrency, and they've realized that there's a very big, the word is infractionalize. Nothing really makes sense within the United States, while many other countries kind of have their own rules. Like the government can make a rule and it kind of blankets the entire country. Within the United States, as there are 50 states, every state has their own constitution and their own law. So what's been happening is that many other states have been a lot more friendly to cryptocurrencies, while states like New York have had the BIT license and it's taken a lot longer for things to actually take place. So what they're trying to do is, as many people have been introducing token taxonomy acts, whatever you kind of want to call them, there are multiple other ones where they're trying to say, hey, certain cryptocurrencies from the get-go should never be seen as a security or not even as a commodity, more so as an actual digital currency. This is where the space is trying to move forward. Part of the issue is that many states are not as well versed, don't really care about it. They think it's going to be, it's a fad, it's going away. No one's really paying attention to the actual, not to say everyone, but a large number of people aren't really paying attention to exactly where this is going to be going. And part of the issue is that from state to state, you have different laws, you have different regulations, you have different so. And this is causing, and it's not even that it's conflicting. It's like, it's none of it actually matches up. We've had many times before, especially when, was it Robinhood? Who was launching their platform, and also when Coinbase was launching certain coins that I think when Robinhood launched their thing, was it Robinhood? It was definitely Robinhood. I think they launched, in 13 states, and then it was in like 14 more states, and then it was in 8 more states. Like it's just really weird where you kind of have to stand before all of them and say, do you allow me to pass through? But then you're like, oh my gosh, I have 49 other doors to also walk through. So they're trying to make sure that it's going to be kind of all streamlined. I will tell you my opinion. I grew up in the States, so this is kind of unbiased. I lived there for a very long time. I was born and raised. This is not going to work out like they want it to. A lot of the US is very separated and not in keeping politics completely aside. It's more so with laws and other things which are legalized and which is not legalized and which can be. It's just a very fascinating place to live in. If you've never lived in the US, I would suggest going there for like a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to see exactly what the US is like. It's a very fascinating place not to get to. Anyway, the point is, it's nice to see that there's an initiative behind the scenes who's trying to make sure that everything that is conflicting becomes a lot more unconflicting and makes a lot more sense for the cryptocurrency industry. I think this is completely telling of why we've seen so many cryptocurrency exchanges, so many cryptocurrency businesses leave the United States, like Kraken and many other places, as they've been assaulted and bombarded by regulators within the United States talking about that you need this paperwork, you need that, you need so and so. You've broken the laws. This is why many of them have left over the course of 2018. And I think this is why people, especially the one of the heads of Ripple, kind of came forward and was like, hey, maybe we should just unify and kind of get this all together. When you start having conversations as to one of the things that I think, or I found the most interesting about governments, and maybe this is just from my personal perspective as I've grown older and I've seen exactly how governments and people function with each other, instead of having a conversation as to how other countries or other expertises, that's not a word, experts around the world are going to dominate your country on 5G. Why don't you try to just build up your infrastructure so that you actually have it first? There's been a lot of discussions over the course of the last couple of years, 3-4 years, within the United States as to how other countries are going to be a leader in the cryptocurrency space. And many of these other countries are already becoming a leader or have established themselves as a very crypto-friendly, blockchain-friendly place. Except for the United States. They've still kind of taken their time on the entire thing. And I mean, we've seen how fast that things grow in the cryptocurrency network, how fast that adoption can kind of come in. And this is why I think they've taken so long to give any type of cryptocurrency regulatory, this is that, so-and-so, security, not a security. They've only done it for Bitcoin. And Ethereum, they kind of backtracked a tiny bit saying that, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. In its current state, it doesn't seem to be one. But even that was also backtracked by someone else in the SEC. As opposed to just giving proper regulations and saying exactly what everything is, they've taken their time. And I think the longer you take your time on this, and this is why I think that other cryptocurrency exchanges around the world are also flourishing, it's because people have realized that you can just download some stuff. You can go to another website. If you're in the US and you're restricted from using something, you can simply just still use another cryptocurrency exchange, because people can't wait forever. And this is why I think that Coinbase was eventually forced to add XRP and forced to add these other coins, because they were under such regulatory pressure within the United States and within New York State that they couldn't really do anything, because everything is so fragmented. You can't have a country and then you're only able to open up something or allow something within 3 or 4 states and say, well, the other 47, can you guys give us about a year and a half? You have to kind of launch everything at the exact same time. And this is why I think myself that so many other countries have been able to, even when they come forward and they say, hey, yeah, you know, only these 5 cryptos are allowed because they're not securities. That's wonderful. That's great. You know, we'll work on the other coins eventually, but at least tell us some type of information as to exactly what this is and how this is going to work out. I fear heavily, and I mean this is only because I was born there, that the US is going to fall behind very, very quickly. Unless they surprise all of us, hands in the air, by the end of 2019 and kind of give us some very direct indications as to what this is all going to be. A lot of other countries have been very clear, very secure. This is this is that. We don't like this. Give us your name. If you're trying to use this website, anti-money laundering, KYC, AML, blah, 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 ABC. This is that. It's kind of good. The US is still not on that playing field. I don't know. I have my own opinions, as you can tell, as to exactly what's going on. But I think it's very interesting when you get someone from Ripple who's like, hey, can you guys get it together? Because this is probably also indicative as to why Ripple has been opening up offices in Japan and in India and in the UK. They're like, okay, well, just in case things don't work out here, we'll be able to continue our operations in other countries. I mean, it will be a great thing for the cryptocurrency industry when we finally do have these regulations and all this. I mean, not to say that I'm for regulations, but for the institutional investors who are looking to get into the cryptocurrency space, they need or desire or want regulation. So when we finally do have them from the US, I think this will only propel the cryptocurrency space and give it more legitimacy, if you will. But as of right now, yeah, that's not really happening in the US. Let's move on. To kind of, I think this is the last one. Yeah, it should be. The Bank of France has taken an interest in stablecoins, as indicated by the bank's governor, Francois Villeroy de Galhau. I was not in the mood to say that in an accent. In a Bloomberg report on the 14th of May, Villeroy has said that the bank is observing with great interest growing networks that allow members to exchange stablecoins for tokenized securities, goods, and services. He makes a point to distinguish stablecoins from cryptocurrency tokens at large, however, saying that stablecoins are quite different from speculative assets like bitcoins. And more promising, Villeroy has been an outspoken critic of Bitcoin in particular, notably making the following statement at a 2017 conference in Beijing. He said, "We need to be clear. Bitcoin is in no way a currency or even a cryptocurrency. It is a speculative asset. Its value and extreme volatility have no economic basis, and they are nobody's responsibility. The Bank of France reminds those investing in Bitcoin that they do so entirely at their own risk." I would not be surprised if he has at least 5 Bitcoin on his computer. Would not be shocked at all. It's not a surprise that people from the banking industry say that they don't care for Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. I would assume that they know what's going on, that they probably read the news or have friends who are texting them like, hey, did you see so-and-so integrated cryptocurrencies? What I think is happening, and I think it's still going to happen, let's see NASDAQ launch, New York Stock Exchange launch, and Fidelity launch. At that point, 3 months after, I'm giving that time frame. So let's say October, November. No, I want to even say the end of September, October, the beginning of October. I want to see, or rather, I assume that we're going to start to see many large banks or central banks come forward talking about that they're going to be either issuing their own stable coins, that they're backing stablecoin projects, or that they're going to issue their own stablecoins sometime in 2020. I've had a very strange feeling for the course of 2018. It's been a good 9 months now, where I said there were far too many stablecoins coming out. There were far too many like banking partners, institutions who were tied to banks, who were also giving funding to these actual projects and to the development of these stablecoins. The Bank of France saying that they're interested in stablecoins tells me that they're looking for a way to digitize the euro, maybe just within their own space. I assume, first of all, the Bank of France has come forward a couple of months ago saying that they believe that their way to regulate cryptocurrencies is the best way within all of Europe. I doubt that that's going to happen. The point is, we are seeing a hyper digitization of everything. I assume that many banks are going to start issuing their own stable coins. I'm pretty sure that the EU has looked into a euro coin in some sort of way. The overall opinion that I'm trying to make without continuously talking about a stable coin for the next 15 minutes is that I'm pretty sure that banks around the world are looking into stable coins, because same exact thing that happened with Ripple. A lot of banks didn't take Ripple seriously, and now they're actually partnering with them or going to be using their cryptocurrency or using their actual technology because they kind of didn't get it. And I think a lot of banks didn't foresee a future where cryptocurrencies were going to become a major thing. And this is why I think that stablecoins have become something interesting to them, because instead of creating their own stablecoins, they're now latching on to other stablecoin projects that have kind of, come out there. And then eventually, if they give them enough funding, they're able to print enough cryptocurrencies